I followed my dreams and I ended up homeless. 20 years later, I'm still dealing with the consequences. Let's find out what happened. Hold on. Look, I know none of you have an attention span, but let's have a quick recap from part 1 of this story. Otherwise, you're not going to know what's happening. I failed to get any of my stuff commissioned. The DVDs are like sitting in shops like it's 28 days later. I'm under immense pressure from my parents to get a proper job, whatever that is.
We're trying very hard to understand why it is that you insist on defying us.
I then find out that Andy has fired me from the school, and I feel like I'm further away from my dream of being a filmmaker than I've ever been. I don't know what to do. Okay guys, I'm sure you're desperate to know. Did I climb the beanstalk, beat the giant, and return to London with a golden goose? Let's find out.
I'm not.
Are you afraid that we might discover that our past has been reshapen, perverted, and perhaps what we think we know of this world is false information?
All right, day one. So my strategy was this. When I had borrowed my parents' credit card, I booked the return ticket for in 7 days' time, but I only booked 2 nights of accommodation, and this was sort of a motivational strategy for myself, putting like a pressure on me that I had to sell these DVDs, otherwise I would be homeless in Edinburgh. So I check into the hostel, I walk to this place called the Royal Mile, which is the central hub. I have just a suitcase full of DVDs, which I open, and I start shouting comedy DVDs.
Who will buy this wonderful DVD?
And half an hour in, it sort of dawns on me that this is going to be more difficult than I thought. I'm sort of having conversation with people where they're sort of saying, why would I have a DVD player at the Edinburgh Fringe? Or what am I supposed to do with this? Like, go back to my hotel and watch a DVD when I'm at the world's biggest arts festival? And are you crazy? Are you actually crazy?
You're just a young kid. What are you doing here? You got to be out in a convertible, bird dogging chicks and banging beaver. What are you doing here?
So after about an hour of that, I thought I'd sort of take a break and reset things. This turned into several hours of me just sort of sat in the Underbelly bar, drinking the last £10 I had, sort of nursing a pint for 6 hours.
I'm drunk right now.
And towards sort of 2-3 a.m, these 2 middle-aged women came over to me, and because I obviously looked sad, and I managed to guilt trip them into buying 2 DVDs. So my first sales of the day, I just had to find 30 more people to guilt trip, and this trip was going to be a massive success.
Okay, get the chalk, put me on the board, John. Put me on the Cadillac board, huh?
And obviously I had 20 quid, which meant I could eat for the next 2 days. DVD, please, please, buy my DVD, please, please, DVD, please. Okay, I'm massively spiraling here. Reality has hit me. The strategy has failed. This is a disaster. I'm selling DVDs out of a suitcase at the biggest live event festival in the world. It's the wrong market. So it dawns on me that tomorrow, when my accommodation runs out, I'm going to have to sleep rough.
So what am I to do to keep the sky so blue? There must be someone who will buy.
All right, day 3. I think it's really important to give some context here. This is between 2003 2005, can't remember the exact dates, but basically the only social media on the internet is LinkedIn, and I only know this after looking it up the other day. There's no broadband, If I had wanted to do some research on what the Edinburgh Fringe was before I went up there, I'd have had to go to a library and take out a book on the Edinburgh Fringe. And, you know, social media in those days was like a message in a bottle, or connecting 2 cups with a piece of string. So in hindsight, I am a sort of Cassandra, you know, I have this digital model, but I'm living in an analogue world. And to use another Greek myth, I am now Atlas, because I am carrying the burden of my ambition literally on my shoulders. And let me tell you, 100 DVDs are pretty heavy, both physically and metaphorically.
You! All of you! I'm going back to my own time. I won't even bother to tell of the useless struggle of the hopeless future. But at least I can die among men!
Anyway, day 3 is spent accepting my fate and sort of wandering around looking for where I'm going to sleep that night. As the sun sets, I decide on some steps of a church, and as I approach my stone bed for the evening, I rest my head on my suitcase of DVDs, which, you know, was actually semi-comfy. I close my eyes, and just before I'm about to fall asleep, I feel a tap on my shoulder. It is a fellow man from the homeless community.
I am not anarchic.
Now, obviously, I'm going to be homeless for the next 5 days, so I want to ingratiate myself to this guy. I want to be part of the community. Don't want to piss anyone off. So I listen to him when he tells me that we have to go and help his friend who's been stung by a wasp. And we're sort of walking for a minute or so, and it dawns on me that number 1, there's no friend, which means number 2, there's no wasp, which means number 3, he's either going to violently assault me or mug me. I then make the decision to run away. I am now scurrying down an alleyway with my suitcase full of DVDs, and this is at this point, the lowest point of my filmmaking career. You know, I came up to Edinburgh to make my name as a filmmaker, and I'm scurrying down an alleyway, running away from a homeless man who's told me his friend has been stung by a wasp in order to mug me. This is not what I got into filmmaking for. And this feels like my lowest point. I duck into the underbelly bar, I slide down in my chair, adrenaline pumping, all thoughts about what a failure I am and what a disaster this is, and that's the lowest I'll ever go, when I look up and see that I am sat opposite Russell Brand.
That there are ulterior, submerged narratives that are not properly described and explained.
Who looks at me, I look at him, and we both have a sort of despair in our eyes, and I see this as a sign to immediately head to Edinburgh Waverley Station and go home to London. It's a very bad omen. Even then, I knew then that this was a bad omen. Now, that's someone who does use the philosophy, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yes, don't look at it as a sexual advance.
So I obviously get thrown off at every stop on the way back to London. And the sort of 20 hours it takes me to get home gives me pause for thought. Where did this go wrong? Well, first of all, obviously, the Edinburgh Fringe was not the market to sell DVDs out of a suitcase.
I don't see a lot of money here.
Number 2, someone needs to invent broadband ASAP. Number 3, I needed some profile that wasn't, hey, aren't you the guy I saw sleeping rough on some church steps on the Royal Mile? And the bottom line is that the distribution model was not there. So I'd done everything right, but the internet didn't exist. And I, as I've said earlier, I had a digital model in an analogue world, so it was never going to work. But at the time, it felt like a total and utter failure, and I was ready to give up.
I've got nothing left. I've got nothing left.
Okay, the DVDs that made me homeless are available to buy on Gumroad. If you would like for me to never be homeless again, you can make a donation on Ko-fi. And what's the closest you've ever become to being homeless from one of your creative ideas failing? I'd love to hear about your creative failures. What's your biggest disaster? Let's hear about it in the comments, and we can sort of form a group of us who will wallow in our failures and comfort each other as we bravely march into the future and change the industry forever. I'd love to have some interaction, any at all, just so I don't feel like I'm talking into the void. All right, well, that concludes another uplifting episode of Revisionist Vaudeville. What failure will await me next? Well, you'll have to tune in to the next episode. This is the slowest content train on the internet. This episode took me 3 months to make, and I'm still not happy with it, but I've just got to publish it. Otherwise, my girlfriend is going to keep shouting at me. And remember, embrace your flaws and destroy your enemies.